Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. This is a presentation, a tutorial for the programming language Dart. That's the official website. First, I will introduce how to get Dart into your operating system so we can start the tutorial and program. First, you go to the main website of Dart. You can find it by searching in Google and the first search result. You go here to get Dart and you'll see the instructions for downloading Dart. Depending on which operating system you use, just follow the instructions and you can download it. I'll be using VS Code compiler for this tutorial. You can download it here. You can just write VS Code and download it also for whatever operating system you're using. Or if you don't want to download anything, you can just use the online compiler for Dart, dartpod.dev, and you can run everything just fine. And for now, let's get to the tutorial. If you're going to use VS Code just like I'm doing, you can first download the extension here by writing Dart, and you can see the extension. I already installed it, and you can just install it and start running. First, I'm going to talk about the operators in Dart. Just how you can run the files. You can either write here Dart and the file name, which here is test, and the Dart, and it will run for you, or you can just run it here by run. So first, introducing the variables. First, in Dart we have a var. This one can be introduced to any type of variable. It will be based on the assigned value. For example, here we have the variable name introduced with type var, and we have an alias. If we had a number here or a double or anything else, it will be casted immediately to the variable and it will be changed into this type of variable. As you can see here that this is a string, but if we change, like the name here is a string, it says, but if we change this into a number, for example 1, and we save, we can see here now it's an integer. So if we can just print, it shows here, that's before saving, it shows here alias, and here we can also, as I said before, we can make it as a number, or we can just write an integer for the number, and we have also a double, and that's the print function. If we want to put a variable inside the quote marks inside the print value, we just need to put a $sign before it to include it inside the string. Moreover, we can use the variable or the type num, which can be also have integer and double at the same time. As you can see here, I declared it as 1, and then I added 2.5 to it, and it showed that as 3.5. Next, we have the object type. It can be anything. As you know, Dart is an object-oriented language, so we can define variables as object, and actually in Dart everything is an object. As you can see, the variables, the numbers, everything. And next we have the dynamic type. The dynamic type is flexible. So for example, as you can see here, I defined this flexible with the dynamic type, and first I made it as a string. And the dynamic type, what's special about it, that you can change it during the runtime. As you can see here, it went from string into being an integer. Its first was like it's dynamic. It will still be dynamic in print and in runtime, and it can change with no issue at all. As you can see, first it was initially a string, but we changed it into an integer and it printed just fine. Let me comment this so the output will not be so much. Next we have the constant. In Dart we have a constant type that if you put this constant, you cannot later change it or even add for it. For example, if we take the variable name, which is pi here, and we said that pi equals pi dot plus 1, it will not run. There is an error because you cannot change the constant value, and if we can print it, it will give us the pi value. Here we also have final. Final is also a type of constant, like you cannot change it. And this can be used in using programs where you develop applications. Just for those who don't know, Dart is used commonly with Flutter, which is a UI language for application development. And as you can see here, you can define the final type to determine that this value is going to be final to the end of the compile time. Here I'm defining the date right now. And next we have the nullable type. What's special about Dart that you can put actually a question mark after defining the type. This means that you can define a string that can be null or not give it a value. This is for safety reason, or you can give it a value later. For example, if we wrote nullable string, you can later assign a value to it and you will have no problem with it. There will be no error. Next we have the late variable, which you can first, for example, here's the function. It's defined first, and then it will be used inside of this function. If we can print it right now. So we can just use the late, for example, if we used it, defined it in the main function, and then later on we defined another function that uses this variable, it will be used and without any problem. So late means that it will be used later. In functions as well, we can have the nullable types that I mentioned earlier. So here we have greet, and we wrote this question mark in front of string. It means that the string can actually be null, and we said here return, and double question mark means is it null? Is this variable null? If this variable null, return to me this string. So let's try here with given the parameter as null, and if we run it, we see that it says hello stranger. However, if we gave it a parameter, we gave it a name here, like the name John, it will run with this name. It will pass this value to it, and it will return the name that we provided. Next we have the boolean, which can show false or true. We can define the type here, and then we write the variable name, and we write the value of this variable, which can be false or true. And next we have the records. The records can be of, you can put multiple types inside the record separated by a comma. We can here put an integer, next we can put a string, and so on, and it continues. Next we have lists. As you can know, list is a type of it's common in Python in all languages. You can define the type of the list beforehand, and now if we print, we see that it prints the list just fine. We cannot put another type of what we defined already, which is a string. We cannot, for example, right now put a string. We have to continue putting with strings. If we wrote dynamic, however, we can change it. What's inside, we can right now put a string. Next we can put a double, and it will run just fine, as you can see here. And also we have the sets. It's similar to lists but have other usages. And we have the maps. The map is type of, looks like a dictionary of in Python. We have here, we can define the map, the type of what will be the key and the value inside the map. We can map apple to number 3, map orange to number 5, and map grapes to number 9. Let's try again. It's with this one. Sorry. next I want to explain about this. There's of course imports in Dart, and this is how you do it. You just write the word import, and then you write which function or which library you want to import. There is a core imports in Dart that you don't need to actually import because they are already imported inside. However, others you should write the import value here. Here I want to explain how we can take a input from the user, and this needs a terminal. So if I run right now this test, as you can see here, there's a print function that says hello world, and then here's a write asking what is your name, and next we have a variable of name string that will store it inside that says read the next line that will be said. And as you can notice here, we have a question mark that if the value provided was null, there will be no compile error. So for example, we can right now write dart test2.dart, and now it's asking us what is our name. We can write just Jawad Jarrash, and it prints hello Jawad al-Jarrash. If we run that again, and as I like, just to give you an example about the question mark of the nullable value, if we wrote enter immediately, there's still no error because it's just null and we have this. And if we removed it, you will see that it provided an error. This is a type of safety in Dart that it's not allowed to write functions without the nullable type. Next we have the operators. As you can see, we have the basic operators, the plus sign, minus sign. Here I declare two variables and I'll do some tests on them. We have the plus sign, minus, multiplication, division, and the modulo. We have logical operators as well that will provide you a boolean value, true or false. And we have the assignment operators, and we have the types and the conditional expression. If I can just run this, you can later test more with these operators. Next we have here the functions. As you can see here, I have the main function in this block and I have this string function. You can write here the type of function that you want, this function that will return. The type that will be returned will be string, and I define the function outside of the main function, and then I go ahead and write print Alice, and it will print just fine. Or you can as well just write the word function, and later you define the name, and you write the parameters inside these parentheses, and then you write what's inside the function. Later we have this void function that you can just print. Here we have an optional positional parameter. As you can see here, we have the nullable value that it can be null or it cannot be null. Here it says if it was null, don't print nothing, otherwise print what is provided. So we can test this right here, say hello world, and if we didn't provide the other parameter, there will be no error because this parameter is just optional. As you can see, it compiles just fine. Next, here we have a configure. You can see that the parameters inside this function are already default value. So if you did not provide values to one or more of the parameters, is going to use the default parameters that are already defined. So here we put the width as 100, and we have a default value of the height 20, and we can see that we run it right now. Let's see what's printed. It shows that the width is 100. We didn't provide a height, however it still printed a value because it has a default value. We have here the arrow function that doesn't need these curved parentheses. You can immediately print for it. And we have the high order function that takes another function as a parameter. As you can see here, we put another function as a parameter. And we have here a simple function to be used in a higher order function, a multiply. Yeah. And if we just run the last three functions that we mentioned, we can see here, sorry, yeah, that it works just fine. That's the output for the sum or the arrow function produce the sum of 10 and 20, which is 30. And here we have the list function that will operate on these, will apply the function or the word for each one of them. It says I like, and for each one of these names. Lastly, here we have the control flow. First, as you can see, for everyone, it's known for the loops. For integer I equals 1 until it reaches 5, you can stop the function. So if we run this right now, you can see it iterates 5 times and then it stops. And we have a while loop that has a similar job as well. We define first the value before we declare the while loop, and then we go inside it and we say that decrease the number until it reaches 0 or -1, and if this was more than 0, then continue the while loop, otherwise stop it. So if we can run this, we can see that the while loop started from 5 and decreased into 1, then stopped. We have also the do while loop. It will first start doing and then it will check the equations. So this will have one more check before it last, one more print before it last check of the function and gets out of it. We have also the break and continue. We have here an if condition that checks if I equals to 6, then break out of the loop and stop the whole function, otherwise continue and print the iteration. So as we can see, basically it's probably gonna print until 5 and then it will stop, as you see here. Here also the branching, which is known in most of the languages, to say an if condition and an if-else condition, that we provide a variable and then we check if the age is more or equal into 18, then print this statement, otherwise print the other statement. We can see here the value is 18, so it's going to print this first if statement. And the basic switch, which is known to everyone, that you are going to provide a variable and you'll check if this variable matches with which one of these, and then print the one that matches, otherwise break outside of it and don't do anything else. So we have here the grade equals into A, so it's gonna go inside the switch and it check which case is it. Is this equals to B, A, C, or D? But it checks from top to bottom, so it will start from here and it will see that A equals to this. So we will probably see the word excellent. So we can see here it appeared. Here we also have how the exception handle works in Flutter, in Dart, sorry. We have here a try and catch block. We will first write the try, that it will be implemented no matter what happens. If there was an error inside this block, then catch the error, print it, and finally also do this. Finally will always operate no matter what happens. That's the reason for it. Otherwise we have here like just a try and catch. So for example, we have here a try for this function check eligibility, and it checks here if the age is more or less. If this condition becomes true, it will throw an exception and it will say not eligible to apply. So let's run this code. As we can see here, first it caught an exception for the first try block. Here caught an exception and it shows what's exception. It says integer division by 0 because this obviously equals to 0, and it finally also was printed. This says this block runs whether an exception is caught or not. And here we also have this try block that we put the number 17 to this function, and it's obviously is less than 18, so it will throw this exception and there will be no catch. So this was the presentation for today. I recommend everyone who wants to know more about this language, to learn more, can go to this link dart.dev/guides, and you can see here a lot of other explanations, you can go to language tour and you will see all the everything about the language documentation, and you can read and try as much as you want. And that's all, and thank you.